Let's go to this story now. The Road Accident Fund is calling on South Africans to file their own claims. The CEO, Collins Letsoalo, came down on those who say that the Road Accident Fund's management is being incompetent, accusing them of wanting to continue to loot the state entity. A media briefing was held yesterday to address these issues impacting the fund. Among the issues addressed is the fund said that they are not facing a collapse as previously reported. The spokesperson, McIntosh Polela, unpacks the briefing for us. McIntosh, a very good morning to you. Thank you so much for making time for us. Let's start off here. What necessitated the call to have claimants file their own claims instead of doing it through lawyers?
So let's correct this. Currently, things as it stands, it's very difficult for claimants to file by themselves. What we're calling for is obviously for the fast tracking of the RAF Bill of 2023, which we put through Parliament, which calls, amongst others, the scrapping of the lawyers in the process of filing for claims. Because as you know, when you file for a SASSA claim or an FSAS claim, you do not need a lawyer. And likewise, we're saying that you should not be needing a lawyer to file for the social benefit with the Road Accident Fund. Because automatically, when you file with a lawyer, the lawyer takes 25%. And as you know, the lawyers try to milk as much money as possible from the RAF. They try to keep the claim alive as long as possible because they are not in the business, of settling. If they settle too quick with us, they don't make money. If they're dragging for 6 years, they make a lot of money through legal and administrative fees. But the legislation as it stands now makes it very difficult for people to claim by themselves. In fact, only 3% of claimants are claiming by themselves. 97% use lawyers because the legislation is itself very, very cumbersome at the moment.
Yeah, but isn't that I'm just thinking about the comparison that you made now between the SASSA and the Road Accident Fund. Aren't the two polar opposites, considering that on one end, there is no question that is going to be around a loss of income due to an accident that has taken place, whereas with the Road Accident Fund, that is one of the situations that you are facing, where sometimes even the Road Accident Fund would dispute what the claimant is saying.
Look, it shouldn't be difficult to determine what your loss of earnings are. If you're a businessman or you are Aldrin working, you know exactly how much you've lost over how many months you've been put out of work by an accident. And it's quite easy to determine what you should be paid for losing a limb, for instance, or for not being able to work, altogether after an accident, because we currently do it. We remodel your house, we give you a wheelchair or whatever assistive device that you need, we provide you with a caregiver. So with the decades upon decades of experience that we have, we know exactly how much we pay people. The intervention of a lawyer is somebody filling out your forms and going to a hospital and getting the comprehensive health report or an accident report from a police station, something that you can do for yourself or a relative can do for you. People have successfully claimed for themselves, and we're saying that the legislation should be changed to allow for people to claim by themselves.
Yeah, again, with that example that you just made now, the Sowetan, for instance, one of the stories that they have on page 8, a judge orders the Road Accident Fund to pay traditional healer 1.2 million rand for losing sense of smell. But the Road Accident Fund had disputed the claim that was made by the lawyer, which means that sometimes there are going to be moments where there is a dispute, and that dispute would need to be resolved, sometimes even in front of a court, where a lawyer might be required.
Yes, that's exactly what we're saying. We're saying what needs to happen is the Road Accident Fund, using actuaries and other experts, should be able to determine how much is due to you. And if you feel that you are not satisfied, it's only then that you need a lawyer, because the majority of claims do not need a lawyer. You just need to file, put in a full complement of documents. And what we find with the lawyers, we're currently sitting with a backlog of over 200,000 claims that we should have settled, but we cannot settle because we don't have a full complement of documents. And that is very deliberate from the lawyers, because if we don't have all these documents, we cannot settle a claim. Likewise, we're not an insurance, we're a social benefit. But let me give you an example. If you have an accident and you want a claim to be settled on your car, the insurance will not give you the money unless you have given the full complement of documents. Now, the Road Accident Fund, as a social benefit, will not be able to pay your money as long as you haven't given us the full complement of documents. And that the lawyers know this too well, and they sit on the documents. And the people keep calling us since we launched the call center last year in October to say, where is my claim? My lawyer's not saying anything. Well, fortunately now they can claim, they can check directly with us, and we are able to tell them that the lawyer hasn't submitted document A or B.
Yeah. Do you think that maybe with this proposal that is being made now, you may find a same situation that you find yourself in now, where a decision was taken, for instance, to do away with the panel of lawyers, and the point that is made by the judge president of the High Court in Gauteng is that, well, it seems as though that the institution may have just shot itself in the foot, because now this has led to even further problems, to such a point where right now, I think if you were to file for a case now at the High Court, that case would only be heard in October 2029.
Look, let's go back to the issue of the panel. First of all, we didn't do away with the panel. We just didn't renew the contract. Number two, these cases would not be in court if the lawyers didn't choose to go to court. They chose to settle. We naturally aim to settle cases within 120 days. But the cases are in the court because the lawyers have chosen to take them to the court. We are obliged as the fund to defend these cases. It's a constitutional duty for us to do so. What we're saying is we have got this period of 120 days where we say to the lawyers, come and settle. We will give you an offer. They choose not to because they want to milk as much money as possible, to the point where you were told as a claimant that your date for the court is 2028. So what we are saying is do away with the lawyers, because in any case, they want to milk as much money as possible. They're thieving from the fund, they're thieving from the claimants, and we want to deal with the claimants directly. And on the cases like you mentioned, where a person is not satisfied with our offer, then they can bring in the lawyers. But without the lawyers, we would quite settle successfully as many cases as possible. And where cases are taken to the court, those will be legitimately cases where the claimants would feel that it's not enough that is being given by the fund. It shouldn't be a norm.
Yeah. Yesterday during the press briefing as well, the CEO made mention of Gert Nel Inc. or attorneys. Why was that particular example so important?
Because Gert Nel has gone on a crusade to try and rubbish the reputation of the Road Accident Fund. He has, over the past couple of weeks, in tandem with other people and a couple of newspapers where we were not given a right of reply, trying to rubbish the Road Accident Fund. Now, there was a bill around 2014 or 2015 that was trying to transform the Road Accident Fund, and Gert Nel, with his organization UPRAF, shot down that bill successfully. Now, we have another bill, which is the RAF bill of 2023. He is doing exactly the same thing, trying to make sure the Road Accident Fund is staying untransformed. We were given an example where we've paid Gert Nel from 2020 2 billion rand. Now, 2 billion rand that he's claimed, and obviously for himself, the 25% of that is made 500 million rand. And so for him, it's not good for the Road Accident Fund to transform, number one. But if you get rid of the lawyers, you get rid of Gert Nel, and a lot of the lawyers that are milking the Road Accident Fund. So what is happening with Gert Nel is he's gone to war with us, and we're meeting him toe to toe, because obviously, if the Road Accident Fund transforms, it doesn't pay Gert Nel. And Gert Nel obviously is a former employee of ours who left us and tailored his company to the loopholes that he had identified with the Road Accident Fund. But what he's done over the years is, number one, wine and dine decision makers to make sure that the Road Accident Fund is not transformed, try to capture the CEO and some executives at the Road Accident Fund. And when that has failed, he has gone on an offensive. And hence, we were talking a lot about Gert Nel
Who are the
yesterday.
people who are being wined and dined by him?
Well, it's decision makers that are wined and dined
Are you
by
able
him.
to share with us who those decision makers are?
No, we have at the moment, starting from today, unmasked some of the messages that he's been sending to the CEO, for instance, trying to deal with the people that are opposition to him, inviting the CEO to fishing trips. And so we're going to do that slowly to try and expose him, because if we do an avalanche of information at the same time, it's not going to make sense to people. So we're going to do it in installments.
Yeah, but you say that the wining and dining is to also reverse some of the decisions or even influence decisions that are being taken or would be taken by the Road Accident Fund. Again, who are these people? Are there only people who are within the Road Accident Fund? We're not speaking about any politicians, lawmakers.
So let me give you an example. Gert Nel doesn't miss any meetings in Parliament where the Road Accident Fund appears, right? Number one. Two, he goes to SCOPA meetings, he flies all the time when there are meetings of the Road Accident Fund, and likewise, at the same time, he tries to woo the Road Accident Fund CEO and executives to try and reverse the decisions on transformation that are happening. He does the same with the people that are decision makers in Parliament. We're not going to be naming any people. We're not in the business of doing so. But at the same time, he also goes on
that's a massive accusation that you're making there, McIntosh, because you're making this accusation against lawmakers who have taken an oath of office.
No, not
and who are also
against
excuse me?
We're not making any accusations against lawmakers. The lawmakers do not approach Gert Nel.
Yeah, but it's Gert Nel who approaches them, right?
Approach Gert Nel. It's Gert Nel who does so.
Yeah, it's Gert Nel who approaches these lawmakers and tries to influence them, right?
Yes, he does.
Okay, who are these lawmakers?
No, we're not gonna name them. I mean, we're not in the business of naming
because
they are not the ones who are doing the wrongdoing. It's Gert Nel who is involved in an unethical conduct.
And the reason that
we're not going to get involved in that.
Yeah, the reason that I asked you about why did you give the Gert Nel example? You went on to say that in 2014, when there was a proposal, he successfully was able to influence that particular legislation doesn't go through.
Yes, through his organization, APRA, which is called the Association for the Protection
And then you speak about the wining and dining of lawmakers. You speak about the wining and dining of lawmakers. These are the same lawmakers who would need to be passing these legislations, including the current one that is before Parliament.
The current one that is before Parliament, that was put through Parliament, yes. He is also trying to influence that with his organization. And obviously, it's not just him. There are other organizations who have gone on an offensive, and they've said on TV, for instance, AfriForum said they were going to make sure that it was shut down and it wasn't going to see the light of day. So Gert Nel is just one of the people that are trying to make sure that the Road Accident Fund stay untransformed. But for Gert Nel, it's because it pays for the Road Accident Fund to stay dysfunctional.
Would you be sharing this information, at least, of those individuals with SCOPA? You had appeared before SCOPA before. They've asked you to write back in terms of some of the issues that they need answers on. Would you be including this particular allegation as well?
Well, at a point that is appropriate, we will be able to share the information, but obviously we're not going to be sharing it before that on a media platform. But we will, and we have, put our information forward at an appropriate moment to say, these are the people that the parliamentarians, especially the ones that have just been appointed in the 6th administration, these are the people that they should be watching out for.
Sorry, just repeat that, the 6th administration, what happened?
So I'm saying to you, what we are currently doing is we will be talking, and we are talking to members of Parliament who are decision makers to say, these are the people that have an interest in an untransformed Road Accident Fund, and these are the people you should be watching out for. These are the people you shouldn't be talking to, because we have an interest in the RAF Bill of 2023 being passed, so that the Road Accident Fund can be transformed, because if the road accident fund, as the CEO, stays as it is, it will end up collapsing. There's a lot of things that we have put as prayers in the RAF bill of 2023 to make sure that we transform the road accident fund. And one of them is to get rid of lawyers, and another is to get rid of paying foreigners, whether here legally or legally. Those are just two examples that I'm giving.
Okay, so Gert Nel did speak to the Star, one of the front page story of today, and in that interview he says that it is disingenuous of Mr. Letsoalo to have gone on a public platform as everything has happened over 23 years, having acted on behalf of thousands of victims. But he goes on to say that he wants an apology.
He's not going to get an apology, number one. And number two, he talks to the Star because that's one of the avenues that he has used. There was a journalist called Zelda Venter who wrote a story without having to solicit, a right of reply from us. And I personally phoned to say I was a journalist before. How could it be that a journalist writes and allows this gentleman to just go on a tandem? And the same thing happened with the Daily Investor. And before that, he had written 3 articles about the road accident fund. So, of course, he uses the stuff quite regularly and others. But he's asking for an apology. I'm sorry, he's not going to get it.